I think that I take part in so many panel discussions. I think this is probably the most sophisticated and enlightened audience that I will ever have the honor to address. It seems to me that the concerns about sovereign wealth funds can be broadly grouped in two categories. One is political. As Ted Truman, your former colleague, always says, how do we know these sovereign wealth funds don't have a political agenda? And then the other broad group of concerns is around corporate governance, both in the way these funds function and their impact on the corporate governance of the companies they invest in. From my point of view, there is such a gap between the China that I see every time I go there and the China that is held up as some specter and monolith that I hear discussed on this side of the Pacific. So I thought I might start by asking Jesse to describe how they went about making one or two of their investment decisions. And I think as you listen to Jesse, you will get a sense of just how far from political an organization like CIC really is. So I'll start by asking Jesse, if you can describe to us what it was like when you made your investment in Morgan Stanley, an investment that is described as saving John Mack's job, and in Chris Flower's fund. So one direct investment, one indirect investment. Thank you.
I think that, first of all, I would say that our investments are not, well, of course, we presently, we place money with external fund managers. Many of them are from US, maybe like Richard, who represent PIMCO, maybe some from Citigroup or from others. So lots of well-known names. But besides that, some major investments we have made, actually, it's not an initiation from CIC. Basically, we're approached by lots of various kind of companies. We have no kind of intention. And of course, that when this kind of subprime issues occurred, when there are many kind of financial institutions in the States fall into financial trouble, something like that, of course, you can imagine that many people approach us. And we think that, well, interestingly, short time before we engage in the Morgan Stanley deal, our chairman had a speech. He tried to convince the audience or the public that the sovereign fund basically is running on a commercial basis. He made an example, says the Arabic fund just made investment on the city. That's short. That was in November, I guess, right?
This was Adia's $7.5 billion investment in the city.
Yeah, he said that that is an example that the sovereign fund is a stable force, a market stabilized force, other than a kind of a destructive force. And we, CIC, would also be a constructive and a stabilized force in the market. And the press wrongly quote says, Chairman Low expressed that CIC also want to invest in city or so on. But quickly after, we have been approached, not just Morgan Stanley, but also some other major firms. I don't want to mention the name, okay? Well, I think that from the American financial institution side, they had basically had two, I guess, purpose. One is that they had incurred a big loss, and if they don't have fresh capital, they don't have a new capital, they will fall into quite serious problem. Their prices already went down quite significantly, or so on. Therefore, they must raise new capital, and it seems that we have expressed our strategy that we're long-term financial and passive investors. Therefore, we found that they are more comfortable with us than with some American investors. Honestly, So this is one purpose. And the other purpose, as my understanding, that they want to have some advantage in China. They want to have a strategic alliance with CIC so that they could have more business opportunities in China. When we mentioned particularly Mr. Zhang Mag, lots of people know he's pro-China for a long time. So he would like to enlarge his China market share or business there. So he thought that if, on one hand, he needs capital. Maybe different people can provide capital. But if you can also, the capital also brings kind of a strategic alliance, that will be, one stone kill two birds, something like that. So basically it's like that. From our perspective, we respect those Wall Street firms, those top banks. We think that they are just excellent in the financial service areas. However, we think that they're in a difficulty probably is when their share price down to a certain level, it might be a good investment opportunity. Basically, that is the concern. That is the consideration. Therefore, we went to U.S., myself and my colleagues, went to U.S., made this kind of a due diligence simultaneously on several banks. I mean, not just Morgan Stanley. And eventually, we had this, after sort of due diligence, we'll have an internal discussion and then a report to our CIO, also president, Mr. Gao Xiqing. And many of the people here had seen his interview with 60 Minutes of CBS. And then at that time, our chairman was traveling to visit some of our peers. He was in Singapore, and then we also had a discussion with him, and then eventually we had to make a decision to make an investment. So our procedure now, as Robert said, that it's kind of concern, there are kind of a corporate governance, there are kind of a transparency and so on, and risk management. We try very hard to build up those kind of infrastructure internally. Our investment process is that we have a front office running different type of investments. We have an equity investments department. We have a fixed income investment department, and we have an alternative investment department. And for those equities which are public traded, it will be fall into equity investment departments. And then they initiate the potential investments. And then they have to go through the due diligence, all kind of procedures. And then they report to the department head and go to the CIO. And then if CIO approved initially, then we have to go to the investment committee.